Hello everybody, welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. About 6 decades ago, Chris Blackwell, the CEO of Island Records, signed a musical act that had been previously employed by Coxsone Dodd. After taking over, promoting and releasing music from this act, the result was one of the biggest songs of the year in the UK and in the US that made Island Records a force and put Jamaican music on the global map. On first listen, this sounds like the story of Bob Marley or the Wailers Band, as they are generally credited with popularizing reggae music on a global scale. But almost 10 years before Catch a Fire would spark a worldwide craze, a girl from Clarendon named Millie Small became Jamaica's and the entire Caribbean's first international recording star. With her happy, joyous and high-pitched vocals as well as infectious smile, she charmed and won over a whole planet. She was a record breaker who became the first Jamaican artist to sell 1 million records and single-handedly laid the foundations for the reggae genre to take root around the world, inevitably setting the stage for later reggae artists like Desmond Dekker and Dave and Ansel Collins to top the UK charts a few years later and open the floodgates for the global reggae revolution that would be led by Bob Marley and the Wailers 10 years later. Let's take a look at the amazing Millie Small, the first international reggae superstar. She was born Millicent Dolly Mae Small in Vere Clarendon on October 6, 1946, to a poor sugar plantation overseer father and a housewife mother. She was the 9th of 13 children and had a natural flair for entertainment, which manifested at a young age as she would always sing and dance to amuse her family. At the age of 12, she participated in the Vere John's Opportunity Hour, a now legendary talent contest organized by the influential Jamaican broadcaster of the same name, which unearthed future legends like John Holt, Jimmy Cliff, Higgs and Wilson, and Alton Ellis, among many others. Young Millie proved her talent wasn't child's play when she came in second and won a cash prize of 30 shillings. After her exploits at the Vere John show, she moved to Kingston to explore opportunities in music and live with her auntie on Love Lane. After a while, she auditioned for Coxsone Dodd, who had established himself as one of the most influential musical forces in Jamaica. He was blown away by her voice and took her on at Studio One. He placed her under the wing of Owen Gray, who was one of his biggest artists, to be her mentor. After working on her vocal technique, Studio One recorded a few songs with her, and one of those songs was a duet with Gray titled Sugar Plum, which became her first hit. She was later paired with another singer, Ray Panton, and both of them scored a number of hits under the name Ray and Millie before the end of 1962. But like many stories involving Studio One, Coxsone Dodd, and the music business in general, they had hit songs which ruled the airwaves, but they were still broke. Even after delivering 3 successful records, Millie was paid roughly the sum of £23. In 1963, they began to record for other producers like Prince Buster and Lyndon Pottinger, and scored even more hit singles, staying on the grind while waiting for a breakthrough. At that time, a 26-year-old British Jamaican businessman called Chris Blackwell had been working hard to get his new label named Island Records a breakthrough. He was in England trying to promote Jamaican music that he was convinced would be the next big thing in world music. He somehow heard one of Millie's songs and just knew that she had superstar quality. He got Coxsone Dodd over the phone and convinced him to allow him take over the management of Millie's career. With Coxsone Dodd's end settled, he called up Millie's parents to get their permission to bring her over to England, and with their blessing, he flew her over to England at the end of 1963. He enrolled her at an institute in Forest Hill, London, where she was given intensive training in dancing and diction. Her first song with Island Records was a track called Don't You Know, which barely made a splash in the market. But Blackwell was convinced that she had what it took to deliver a major hit. Blackwell's friends thought he was mad to take that kind of gamble, because in those days, the only popular Caribbean music in the UK was Calypso. But Blackwell stuck to his plans and arranged for Millie to sing a cover of a 1957 R&B song by a singer called Barbie Gay. This song was recorded at the Olympic Studios in London and was arranged by Jamaican master guitarist Ernest Ranglin. And by March 1964, Millie's second single, titled My Boy Lollipop, was released under Island Records. Chris Blackwell's faith paid off as the song rocketed into the British music charts and reached number 2 in less than 2 weeks. It also flew into the US charts and would have gone on to number 1 if not for the Beach Boys, who held the top spot tightly. It also charted in Canada and went up to number 1 in Australia. It would eventually sell 7 million copies that year, and Millie became the 3rd best-selling artist that year, behind the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Island Records made a killing, and riding on the success of that record, established itself as Jamaica's biggest record label. Millie became an international superstar and toured the UK, USA, Brazil, Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and several countries in Africa. She was particularly huge in Nigeria, where My Boy Lollipop stayed in the Nigerian top 10 for 6 years. By the end of 1964, she returned to Jamaica to a hero's welcome and was escorted by nothing less than a presidential convoy from the airport to meet with then Jamaican Prime Minister and Governor General. Before the end of the year, she had released 2 albums, which did well in sales, but subsequent singles like Sweet William and Bloodshot Eyes came nowhere near the success of My Boy Lollipop. After her contract with Island Records expired in 1968, she moved to Decca Records for a year and then on to Trojan Records, under which she released her last album, Time Will Tell, in 1970. She continued to tour and perform before moving to Singapore in 1971. She returned to England in 1973, and after a troubled relationship, she lost most of her money and fell on very hard times. She was even homeless for a while and lived in a hostel until Chris Blackwell heard about it and bought her a home in London. He also arranged for her to get performance fees for the use of My Boy Lollipop every year. She gave birth to her only child, Jay Lee, in 1984 and quit the music business to devote herself to raising her daughter properly. She largely stayed out of the public eye, even with the re-release of My Boy Lollipop in 1987 to celebrate Island Records' 25th anniversary. The song would chart and rose up to number 46 on the British charts. In that same year, she made a rare public appearance when she received a Medal of Appreciation from Prime Minister Edward Seaga. In August 2011, her name re-entered the public space when she was awarded the Order of Distinction for her contribution to the Jamaican music industry. She was not in attendance, and the award was received on her behalf by now ex-Prime Minister Edward Seaga. She will sadly pass away on the 5th of May 2020 at the age of 72 after suffering a stroke in London. It was the end of the life of a musical pioneer and enigmatic personality who has set the world alight with her joyous voice and wonderful charm. It's almost impossible to fully describe her superstar power at the peak of her success, but she was for a time just one of the 3 biggest musical acts on the planet and the artist who introduced the reggae genre that we know and love today to the world stage. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.